She is nameless. At least her name is not given or known. Her only identification is her calamity, her suffering, her being ritually unclean, her shame. Begin there. With a woman who had been suffering from hemorrhages for 12 years. If she had had any money at all, it was all gone, spent on ineffectual doctors. She is poor, destitute, of no position in society. She is outcast and knows that she is outcast. And if she forgets, she is reminded at every turn. She is alone, and she has no one to advocate for her. Still, and notably, hers is the first woman's voice we hear in Mark's gospel. If I but touch his clothes, I will be made well. In contrast, we are told Jairus' name. We know he is a leader in the synagogue, a respected member of the community, and therefore probably enjoys high standing in society. He seemingly has no trouble at all gaining access to Jesus in the midst of a tumultuous crowd. And he has enough prestige to dare to ask that Jesus come to his house to heal his daughter. Unlike the woman, the daughter does have someone to advocate for her. Whereas Jairus approaches Jesus face to face and pleads with him, the woman approaches Jesus surreptitiously from behind, reaching out, hoping only to touch the edge of his clothes. Whereas the woman is healed in the midst of the crowd and in a very public way, the daughter is healed in the privacy of a home, from which Jesus has intentionally sent away the gathered crowd. Whereas the woman reaches out to touch Jesus, Jesus reaches out to touch Jairus' daughter. What do these two seemingly unrelated persons and their stories have to do with each other? And why? Why has Mark sandwiched them together like this, introducing us first to Jairus, pleading for his daughter's healing, then to the woman who reaches out and touches the hem of Jesus' robe, only to return us to the devastated Jairus, for in the intervening time his daughter has died, leaving Jesus not with the ask of healing her, but returning her to life. 12 years was too many to have suffered for the adult woman, too few to have lived for Jairus' young daughter. If Jairus and the woman have anything in common, it is that they are both desperate for their circumstances to be different from what they are. And the only way for that change to happen is Jesus. He is their last and best and only hope. I want to suggest this morning that it is often helpful to approach Mark's gospel as if it were a kind of sandwich shop. For this morning's lesson is neither the first nor the last passage in which Mark interrupts himself mid-story in order to insert a second, seemingly unrelated story into the middle of it, only to return to the original story, sandwiching them together and building a kind of literary hoagie. More than a few readers and scholars of Mark's gospel have noticed this pattern, so much so that the literary device of nesting one story within another, technically called an intercalation, is often referred to as a Markan sandwich. Read his gospel with a delicatessen eye, and you'll find more than a handful of these stories within stories. And while they may be a literary device with a silly name, they work to seriously theological ends. The middle story nearly always provides the key to understanding the whole passage. In this morning's example, the woman's faith. The woman's faith forms the center of the sandwich and is the key to its interpretation. Through her, Mark shows how faith in Jesus can transform fear and despair into hope and salvation. It is a powerful lesson meant not only for Jairus, who bore witness to the woman's faith, but for all who have or ever will read Mark's gospel, including us. By inserting the story of the woman into the story of Jairus and his daughter, Mark sandwiches the power of faith between discipleship and witness. The woman's interruption is at first sight not at all to Jairus' advantage, for in the intervening time, his daughter has died before Jesus could reach his house. With that devastating announcement, Jairus' hope falters. Surely his servants are right. Why trouble the teacher any further? It is as though Mark were asking his readers, is there any hope for us now? What kind of belief must Jairus have in such an unthinkable situation in which all human hope seems to have been extinguished? And here we get a taste of the theological reason for today's sandwich. Jesus' instruction to Jairus, do not fear, only believe, has already been illustrated by the woman. Jairus, the religious leader, must have the kind of faith the outcast woman has. She trusts. She believes. She has faith. She reaches out, and she is healed immediately. Now, we have noticed before how often Mark uses this word immediately. Did you catch its repetition this morning, where it appears 3 times in this one passage? The woman stops bleeding immediately upon touching Jesus' clothes. Jesus is aware of the healing immediately, and back in Jairus' house, his daughter immediately gets up and walks around upon hearing Jesus' word and feeling his touch. Immediacy, faith, certainty, belief. Y'all, this passage from Mark undoes me. Not only the profound faith of the woman who had suffered for 12 years, but her desperation. Not only her crawling through the crowd to grab onto Jesus, but also Jairus falling to his feet before Jesus, begging him to heal his daughter. Not only how Jesus endearingly calls the older woman daughter, welcoming her into God's family, but also how he speaks to Jairus' daughter as if she were his own child. He took her by the hand and said to her, Talitha kumi, which in Aramaic is an endearment, not simply little girl, get up, but something more like, my little lamb, get up. Something that would be spoken fondly by a parent to a beloved child. And not only the way in which he speaks so tenderly to the girl, but also in his concern for her once she is revived. He told them, give her something to eat. How can we not find hope in this passage? And how Jesus says yes without hesitation to both Jairus and the woman in their time of desolation. And how Jesus is concerned about our spiritual health as well as our physical well-being. And how Jesus is willing to reach out and touch us or to be touched, whatever our individual concerns may be. And how both stories reveal Jesus' extreme mercy, love, and compassion. And how that love is immediate, tender, real, generous, responsive, magnificent, and victorious. If this passage is a sandwich, it is made with manna, with bread from heaven, come down to love and heal and make whole. Bread that we also are meant to become. For if Jairus comes to understand something about the power of faith through the witness and testimony of the woman who reached out to touch Jesus, so too are we meant to learn and to practice the same gesture, reaching out. Faith is made visible in the twin gestures that enliven these two interwoven stories, in reaching out to Jesus and Jesus reaching out to us. And if we need a little help with figuring out exactly what shape that takes in our lives here and now, the gospel made famous by Diana Ross can show us the way. Just reach out and touch somebody's hand. Just try. Take a little time out of your busy day to give encouragement to someone who's lost the way. Or would I be talking to a stone if I asked you to share a problem that's not your own? If you see an old friend on the street and he's down, remember his shoes can fit your feet. We can change things if we start giving. We can change things if we just reach out to Jesus and to each other. We can change things if we just reach out and touch. Touch someone's hand and make this world a better place if we can. This passage from Mark's Gospel, in which the faith of one unnamed woman illuminates not only the raising of Jairus' daughter, but also the immediacy and the constancy of the incarnate word of truth and love, is not only good news, it is also a call to discipleship, of following the one who reaches out to us eternally, the one who stretched out his arms of love on the hard wood of the cross that everyone might come within reach of his saving embrace, as one of our collects at evening prayer puts it. So clothe us, that prayer continues, in your spirit, that we, reaching forth our hands in love, may bring forth those who do not know you to the knowledge and love of you. For the honor of your name, amen.